Hello, I'm Randy Swallow. Welcome to Clark County Chronicles Extra. We're chatting with District C Commissioner Larry Brown. Commissioner, District C is such a varied and unique district. Mount Charleston has got to be one of the most unique parts of District C in the entire county, and it's been in the news a lot lately. Tell us about some of the things that are going up on Mount Charleston.
Yeah, very much so, Randy. In fact, a few years ago, one of the national outdoors magazines was rating urban areas for outdoor adventure. And it had right on the cover, "You'll never guess who was #1." And sure enough, it was Las Vegas. And certainly when you look around the places surrounding the urban core, that you can jump in your car and be there within 15 minutes, certainly less than an hour. Everyone knows about Lake Mead and the Hoover Dam and the Valley of Fire up north, certainly Red Rock Canyon. And what's become extremely popular now is Mount Charleston. Very, very unique. And part of District C, we have some full-time residents that live up on the mountain. We have certainly some part-time folks that have purchased land, built cabins, go up there in the summertime. And then just tens of thousands of people that will visit the mountain during all times of the year, hiking during the summer, the ski area during the winter. But it's also been a key part of District C because we've been involved in so many great programs, especially this past year, 2010, going into the new year, 2011. One of the biggest issues up there that has finally come to a reality is water meters. Now, people might not realize the importance of meters up there, but it's an independent system, certainly separate from the water district down here. And we created the Canyon Water District. And for years, people on the mountain really just paid a flat rate, whether you were conservation minded or whether you soaked your yard and the 2 yards downstream from you. And then a few years ago, the system, which was decades old, fell into such disrepair that the state literally mandated that the water district go up to the mountain and upgrade the system because it became a health and safety issue. And certainly not only for the residents, but those that go up and use the mountain. So over the past few years, the water district, under the guise of the Canyon Water District, have upgraded the system, built some storage tanks, and as part of the state grant, we did receive monies, a couple $1 million to rebuild the system. It was mandatory that all residential lots would be metered, which is not a new concept in the valley or anywhere in the country as far as an urban area, but certainly on the mountain. So we have just finished our last of a series of public hearings on creating the water rate opposed to the flat rate. We're trying to create that system that builds equity for the full-time residents, the part-timers, and we have been very successful. The Water District and Chris Munhall in our office have certainly done a lot of outreach, trying to educate the reasons why, the breakdown of the rates. And I attended a special meeting last week up at Mount Charleston specifically to try to get a recommendation from the Town Advisory Board going ultimately to the Board of County Commissioners to adopt what they felt was the most equitable rate. And it was interesting. There was a lot of opinions. Some of the folks that have been up on Mount Charleston for a long time shared what they had heard 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and is it the same now? But the bottom line, the system's in place. It's a good system. The rate structure is going to be as equitable as it can be. And once again, it was a tremendous input from the community to have the public agency create the rates. So that certainly was big news. The rates will go into effect in all probability in the fall of 2011. What we're trying to do is adopt the rate and have those people that have been metered for the last year and all those that have come online as recently as a few weeks ago to get certainly some months of actual use with the new meter, and then once during the summertime to gauge where they're going to be so they can look at, if you're a resident, look at your water bill and say, got to be careful. So we anticipate that happen.
Commissioner, obviously snow on the mountain is the biggest issue, and that's what we all see during the months of December and January. What types of issues have come up in the past couple months with the recent weather woes out on the mountain?
They, up on the mountain, have been pounded over the last 30 days with a couple significant storms. One to the extent that the county and the agencies involved had to issue an avalanche warning. And again, when we're down in the valley and we see the beautiful snow in the mountains, and actually on the western part of the valley we got some snow in some of our urban neighborhoods, but you look up at Mount Charleston, you see it dusted with snow. In the mountain, when they were getting 12, 16, 20 inches of snow, it becomes a real issue, especially for those residents that are full-timers. And there were a couple senior residents that we certainly care about their ability to survive those type of events. But Sergeant Fricker with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department is in charge of the resident officers up at Mount Charleston. Again, working with the Nevada Department Highway Patrol, and certainly the nonprofit groups up there, the community groups up the mountain. They literally go door to door and make sure everybody's okay. And the snow got so bad that first storm that they brought some people down off the mountain, set up some temporary shelters out in the northwest at an elementary school. But the snow on the mountain also creates a host of other issues. Certainly one is people traveling. You know, a lot of the enthusiasts down here in the valley, they see that first snowstorm, they're in their cars, they're heading up there. But the snow was of such intensity that it literally prevented anybody going up to the mountain for at least 24 hours until they settled down. And even the residents were asked to vacate some of the specific neighborhoods that were subject to the avalanche. So the overall snow brings wonderful stuff. Right now the ski resort is having a great early season. Thousands of people going up enjoying that part of the mountain. So that is another thing that we down here take for granted. Up there it poses a whole different set of challenges for the neighbors.
And Commissioner, of course, during the winter months, the Lee Canyon Meadows area is very popular with visitors and residents alike. What types of things are going on up there during the winter months?
We are very excited, we the county now, on the Lee Canyon side of the mountain. We took a look at about a year ago. One of the issues in what they call the Meadows areas is one of the most popular snow areas, not only for sledding, but also just for playing in the snow. It's a very flat and open area, one of the few that you'll find on the mountain. That is where everybody goes. It has caused in the past some tremendous challenges. First and foremost, travel. When there's snow up there, the already narrow road gets pushed even further in, so you are at risk just driving normally to and from. And at the end of that road is the ski resort, so there's always traffic at the Meadows. People will park, double park, jump out, run across, and the interesting thing in the Meadows is there's a very large gully that traverses the entire Meadows frontage. That has always presented a problem to the volunteer fire department, which is the agency that responds when someone gets out of hand sledding, runs into a tree, or there's an accident, someone gets cut. They, when we went up and visited, they actually talked about how difficult it is, not only two of them to get down with their equipment through the gully and up into the Meadows area, but then rescuing the person in need and bringing them back and bringing them back up. Well, a lot of the stakeholders got together, and with great support from, again, the state, the federal agencies, and the county, Clark County created a safe area where we put some piping down into the gully because it is natural drainage, covered that up, and made it accessible to the volunteer fire department. So now the response is much more immediate and safer for everybody involved. We also, through the support of the ski resort, got a payphone placed in across the street from the Meadows. In the past, cell service is all but zero. So if someone did get hurt, it was incumbent upon someone sometimes to get in their car, drive upwards of a half hour, or up to the ski resort where they had some walkie-talkies. That was another great benefit. The county owns 5 acres of land at the top of the Meadows. It's long and linear, and that was where everybody loved to sled, because that is the part of the Meadows that's the steepest and just screams, "Come sled here." how adventurous are you? Just come onto our property. And that's where the majority of the serious accidents were happening. So we got permission and worked with our environmental group here at the county, making sure that we were sensitive to any of the species or any of the issues up on the mountain, and went up and cut down some of the more obvious trees that were problems. There was also some old trees that have fallen down and creating all these physical obstacles for safe sledding. We did that through a private contractor, went up, did it all. Just literally as we finished that project, the first snow fell on Mount Charleston, so timing was great. All in all, the Meadows has turned into a much safer area, not only for the user, the end user, but certainly for those that had to respond in a case of emergency. That's a real plus. We have the Mount Charleston Volunteer Fire Department. They're building itself. We went through a very lengthy process to go through an RFP to get that out to bid to expand the station. And it's a very, very difficult site because it's wedged in between federal lands, the main street going in towards the facilities by Old Town. So there was literally only a couple acres to deal with. That went extremely well. That should be on construction when the snow melts. And once again, done successfully because the input came from the people that deal with it day in and day out. The volunteer fire department folks, the town board, the residents. So that was another positive thing that happened. Everything on the mountain, in just looking at the past 12 months that we've been involved with, we've accomplished some really positive things for the benefit of the residents and for the users that go up and enjoy Mount Charleston.
Commissioner, you and your colleagues recently honored a man, Dick Taylor. You gave him the title of Historian Laureate of Mount Charleston. That's quite an honor for quite a man.
Myself and Commissioner June Kiliani, who has a cabin up on the mountain, recognized this gentleman. And his name's Dick Taylor, and this is the book that he's put together. And Dick's a fascinating man. He's been up on the mountain over 50 years. He's become the poet laureate, the historian that has brought to life all the history of Mount Charleston that very few people knew about. He goes back and talks about the early years, at the turn of the century when they were actually doing some mining, cutting trees and lumbering up there. And a gentleman, Judge Beale, at the time, wanted to get that off the mountain. And this is, again, over 100 years ago, for the sole purpose of protecting what he saw back in 1905 or 1908 or 1910 as a treasure for this valley. And what, look down here, there's probably the railroad tracks and such. But Judge Beale was the visionary that literally saved the mountain from that kind of potential damage. Dick Taylor has been working for a long time. He doesn't tell us exactly when it started, but just recently reported out that through the appropriate state channels, he is now has an application in to name one of the peaks at Mount Charleston for Judge Beale. Again, 100 years after the fact, but this is the type of character and quality of character that we have on the mountain. And this is just a small book, but it goes back and talks about mapping and mining and the first people up there and how the tourism industry has changed dramatically. So we're very fortunate to have Dick Taylor, and it was an appropriate award for a person that has dedicated many years of his life, not only for the quality of life on Mount Charleston, but certainly the preservation of a very historic part of Southern Nevada. Mount Charleston is truly, for anybody that's been up there, a very special place to a lot of people.
What other services does the county provide to the residents and the visitors, public safety or day-to-day, that are invaluable in Mount Charleston, up on Mount Charleston?
Well, during the winter months, and especially this past winter, when the snow hits, the county is responsible for maintaining their roads. And we went up, I mentioned that Chris Munhall and I went up last week for the water rate hearing that we held at the elementary school, Lundy, in Old Town. And going down what normally would be probably 15-foot roadways, squeezed even tighter, barely fitting the one vehicle that we were in, and looking out both windows, to see 10-foot snowbanks, and knowing that it was our county employees that went up there and have cleared the road. And the biggest challenge hearing from them is not their ability to make sure the roads are clear, but what to do with the snow. Those that are familiar up in Mount Charleston, some of these villages, Old Town, and some of the subdivisions have been put in like nooks and crannies. So when you're plowing the streets and you come to there's no place to put the snow. So literally it's become a challenge, and it's become a very creative way that the County Public Works and their staff have been able to service those people. The Kyle Canyon Water District, another critical public agency, indirectly a part of the county, that we provide a safe and reliable water source on the mountain, not only just for the daily needs of the people up there, but as importantly, fire protection. It's a very fragile area. We saw this past winter and past summer when there was a fire on the mountain, and but for the grace of God and some shifts in wind and some work that had been done a decade earlier, we could have lost scores of homes up on the mountain. So the water district, critically important up there for ultimately protecting people and property. So we have a very, very strong relationship, Clark County proper and Mount Charleston. Our town board has always been a very active and strong voice in identifying public issues, helping with developing public policy for the mountain that's unique to the mountain. They've been a critical part in getting a lot of the good things done over the last few years.
Thanks, Commissioner. That wraps up this edition of Clark County Chronicles Extra. For more information on any District C issues or anything countywide that Commissioner Brown has just talked about, please visit our website at www.clarkcountynv.gov. I'm Randy Swallow. We'll see you again next time right here on CCTV Channel 4.